Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kimberly Schumacher, Vice President of Partnerships and Services at CJP, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all here today as we have the great opportunity to meet our Creative Community Fellows, Paloma and Tim, in collaboration and in conversation with Laura Mandel at JArts. It's going to be an exciting conversation. I had the absolute pleasure of meeting Paloma and Rotem earlier this week, and I know you'll enjoy getting to know them as much as I have. So, little bit of background before we get to the exciting stuff. We create CJP and JArts conceived of this community creative fellowships together. Really, it was the brainchild of Laura and my colleague, Sophie Krentzman, director at CJP of Arts and Culture. Sophie had a baby recently, so she's out on leave, so she can't be here, but we're thinking about her very much today, and I know how excited she would be for this launch. The fellowship was created for two main reasons. One is as a platform and to be able to showcase and support our incredible artists in the community. And the second is as an opportunity for our community and organizations to be able to co-create and to participate together with the artists. So there's going to be an enormous amount of opportunities for any of you after this to plan, to get to know the fellows, to make arrangements for them to come to your organizations, to work with your organizations. And I know Laura is going to share that information. In particular, it's Jamie Brody at JArts who will walk you through all of that. Little bit of background on Paloma and Rotem, and then we're going to be in conversation, as I said. So Paloma Valenzuela is a Dominican-American Jewish writer. She has created lots of things. One in particular is she is the creator and writer of the web series, the Pineapple Diaries, and that was featured in Latina magazine as 5 web series every Latinx person should see. As I told Paloma before we got on, I went to watch. I thought I was going to watch clip 5 so that I could reference it with integrity. An hour and a half later, I had to force myself to stop binge watching it because we had this panel. But it's so fun. You'll laugh out loud. And it's also very interesting and important to watch. So Paloma, thank you. Also, we have Rotem Goldenberg from Israel, who moved to Cambridge recently. And Rotem, interestingly, combines visual theater with performance, storytelling, and clowning. She is the first medical clown that I've met. I love saying that, Rotem. And she has so much to offer. She is the actor and partner in the Hola Theater, a social theater group for Israelis and asylum seekers. So I want to open it and turn it over to Laura Mandel, the executive director of JArts, so that she can be in conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. And thank you to all of our partners and collaborators at CJP who've made this program possible. Like Kimberly said, this was a dream of ours for a long time, and so to be able to collaborate to make it happen is pretty unbelievable. And for some of you, you may have seen our first round of fellows last year who did some incredible work, and I just have to say how excited I am to introduce you to Rotem and Paloma today, because I think this is just next level, and what they bring to our community is something really special. So my hope is that in the next 45 minutes, you will come to love them as much as we do. And like Kimberly said, hopefully want to bring them into your community and honestly understand a little bit more about what they might be able to bring to you as a part of this process. So to start to get to know them a little bit, I thought we would start with some clips of their work. So Rotem, first up, we are going to watch your piece that is called Otherwise. So we will watch that first and we will discuss right after. clapping on behalf of everyone out there, since I know we can all be heard. Rotem, that is a really beautiful piece. And I have, for a very long time, been taken by how we can tell stories differently through puppetry. So tell us a little bit about what that means to you and what this piece says about you as an artist.
First of all, this show, Otherwise, created by Elit Weber, and it's based on the book of Chava Nisimov, A Girl from There, which describe her childhood during the Second World War. And we perform it with it around Israel and also in Croatia and Slovenia and Slovakia. And also we won award, the Asitej Award for the best one-woman show, 2016, with this show. And when we tell a story, we need to, it is very critical to decide from which point of view you tell the story. And what kind of narrative do you wanna choose? And me and you can be at the same time, in the same place, and we can tell totally different stories. And maybe both of them will be true, maybe not. And for me, the thing that I love most in puppetry is the fact that it celebrates the images, it celebrates metaphors and representations, and the puppets, the way you decide to design them, the material they made is it a big puppet or an old body puppet or just a representation of an idea? All these points create more layers to the story, and I love it. And Otherwise is a great example for that, because there are many puppets there and many sizes. And in one layer, we tell the story of Chava during the war, like all the events that she got through the war, but we also tell her mental journey that she got through her childhood during the war. And for example, the Nazi soldier is not a whole body puppet. We decided to design it as only the black boots, not shoes. And it's more in a representation of a soldier. We also wanted to take Chava's point of view. She was hiding and she saw only the boots. She was hiding under the closet and she saw only the boots, and we wanted to do that. And we can do that with puppetry, with puppets. So, and there's many examples for that in this show.
Beautiful, really beautiful. Thank you for kicking us off with that. I know there's so many more questions I have, but Paloma, I know Kimberly already mentioned your Pineapple Diaries series, so I thought it would make sense to introduce you with your trailer from the 3rd season of the Pineapple Diaries. So let's watch it.
My name is Maite Lopez, and this is Still My Life.
Si la calle bota fuego, tírese pa'l agua. Quien dijo que pa' batirlo hay que tener nalga? Y si no sabe moverla, mira, eso no es nada. Dele hasta abajo como si no hay mañana. Si la calle bota fuego, tírese pa'l agua. Quien dijo que pa' batirlo hay que tener nalga? Y si no sabe moverla, mira, eso no es nada. Dele hasta abajo como si no hay mañana. Así que bátelo, 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 bátelo. Así que bátelo.
All right. So I know, Paloma, this is a very personal series for you. So tell us a little bit about what it's all about and where it came from.
Am I on? Oh, yeah.
You're good.
Um, First of all, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. The Pineapple Diaries is a comedic web series that has been like my passion project for the past few years. I think it is like a combination of a lot of things. It was a way for me to create independently. It might be, I think, my biggest first project that I produced independently in a way that was like producing, directing, acting, writing, finding the funding for it and doing all that. So it has been a huge learning experience for me. I learned so much through doing the show. And I always wanted to see a show like Pineapple Diaries growing up, a show that is a combination of so many things, a show that highlights, Black Latinidad, which is still something that you don't see enough of, and to center women of color, Dominican-American women, the Dominican-American experience, being first generation, a show that had all of those elements to it proudly, and at the same time it's just simply about adulthood and trying to figure stuff out, like so many shows that we love that I feel often are greenlit for white characters. A show that could just be about the absurdities of everyday life, but it happens to be that this show has women of color in the forefront, which is something I always wanted. And then the other thing is I always wanted to see a show that kind of portrayed the city of Boston the way that I've experienced it. I think there's sort of a one-sided perspective of Boston in mainstream, like Hollywood portrayals that is true to many, like, I not to discount it. I think that there are so many different, like Rotem said, there's so many different truths to experiences in Boston, but my experience in Boston was, living in Jamaica Plain, a predominantly Dominican neighborhood, going to Boston Arts Academy, with a student body of artists of color, and so this sort of like very white Boston isn't what my reality has been in terms of like my living here and growing up here, from being an adolescent to leaving and coming back. And I just wanted to like celebrate Boston and celebrate communities of color in Boston and have them be the center of the story for Boston, and Boston almost being another character in the story in a way that, I haven't seen in mainstream television before. So that's where it all comes from. And it, like I said, it's just a show about these group of women, their friendship as they like navigate relationships and like jobs and growing up, and like the very true struggles of millennial like trying to figure out how to be an adult, and everything that comes along with.
So that's a perfect segue, Paloma, to what I want to ask next, because I think that this issue of the sort of becoming an adult, becoming an artist, I think what I love about both of your works is that you're so rooted in storytelling and how we show different and diverse perspectives. But where does this come from for you? I mean, Paloma, when did you start telling stories, and how are you drawn to film as your medium?
Well, I think I always was drawn to stories. I think I remember my earliest memory, maybe my parents have earlier memories, but I feel like my earliest memory is I like made these like picture books. I think they were called Billy books. I think they were very much trying to be like Arthur. Like I was trying to be on some Arthur status, Muppets-esque illustrations. And it would just be printer paper that I stapled together into these like little books and these stories. So that's my earliest memory of just loving telling stories. And, I went on to discovering theater and acting and wanting to be an actress. So I went to Boston Arts Academy and sort of explored everything theatrical, including playwriting. And that's when it was like, that was it for me. Like the idea of telling a story and seeing it come to life, being able to see that process. And I love the written story as well, but the story that you watch performed is like other level. For me, it's like, it truly is like my passion. So ever since then, I was really into it, and I always was a fan of film, but I definitely wanted to like maybe study something I didn't know anything about going into college. And I had done playwriting, and obviously I was just like 18, so it's not like I knew everything to know about playwriting, but I felt like I wanted to explore screenwriting and film and just sort of dive into something for the first time. And the rest is history. I'm definitely, film and storytelling is like one of the biggest joys of my life.
Awesome.
Hearing
Thank
stories
you.
as well. I love hearing stories. I think that's also something that's really makes life so full.
Well, and it's clear that you found ways to take other people's stories and synthesize them to spit them back out in a way that we can all experience them. And I think what's so special is you both have a knack for that. So Rotem, tell us about what's a little bit of your story. Where did you start with puppetry? How did you become a medical clown? Where does this all come from?
First of all, since like Paloma, since I was a small child, I loved hearing stories, and I was always curious about people and about their stories. I remember myself asking my mom question about, who is this? What is it? How many brothers? I loved it. I still am. And I was very theatrical girl and very even dramatic girl. I still am. And there was no doubt that that is what I'm supposed to do. And I remember my first street performance that I saw. And it's a point that it was very, it really moved me, and it's a point that I really remember because I was thrilled from the fact that anybody can see that, anybody can watch it. And I remember myself watch the show, and a homeless person stood next to me and also watched the show. And for me it was, and more than that, we laughed at the same time. And for me, it was like, oh, I couldn't believe that it's for everyone and we're the same. And I love genres that artists bring to street performance: the mask, the clowning, the grotesque, that it's beyond realism. So I started my professional way in street performance and with clowning, and then I wanted to combine it. It was not enough for me, and I wanted to do also community work, and medical clown is like the whole story, the whole package. Puppetry, it's a funny story. I didn't know I like puppets. And when I was a student, I studied physical theater. I needed money. And I met someone who asked me if I could do storytelling for children. And in those days, I studied clowning. And my clown teacher said that clown always say yes. Do you speak French? Yes. Do you juggling? Yes, of course. Can you hold a cow in one hand? She asked me if I could do storytelling for children. I said yes, no problem, and I didn't know how to do that, but of course. And so I didn't know what to do, and I took an Israeli children book that I had from the time that I was a kid, and I tried to adapt it to a show, and I adapted it to a small show, and I felt that I need a warm-up. And I had a mice puppet. And I thought, okay, I will take the kids' attention to me before the show, and I just hold it and I ask them very, very stupid questions. I'm like, hi, I'm looking for Ruti, the other puppet. Do you know where she is? Cheese. Yes, but yeah, but do you know what time is it? It's cheese. Yeah, okay, but can you tell me a little bit more than that? Cheese. And the kid loved it, and also the parents did. And from show to show, I added more and more puppets, and gradually, I realized how much power puppets has, and it's much more than fun or entertainment. But that was the beginning.
As a huge fan of puppets, I think that's a fabulous story, and I'm very excited to see what else comes out of this fellowship. So, of course, a major important piece of this fellowship is, of course, that it is not just any artistic fellowship. This is intended to develop work that is inspired by Jewish life and values and your own stories. And the two of you come from very different, almost opposite Jewish backgrounds. So I want to let everybody know a little bit about where you're coming to this from. So Rotem, I'll let you continue. I know you grew up in a very religious family in Israel. How do you think that impacts your work?
Actually, I grew up in a religiously and politically diverse home. My father is religious and Orthodox, and my mother is secular. And till today, they conduct a life that respects both sides. And it's very special in Israel. You don't see this diverse family, and they gave me the freedom to choose my way regarding my Jewish identity. And it allowed me to ask a lot of questions, and it allowed me not to take values for granted or to be tied to one movement or another. And I think it's a critical point in my life, because asking questions is really shaped me, shaped my personality and shaped my artistic way. So when I want to come with questions to the community and to my creative art piece when I'm creating it. Since we moved here a few months ago, the subject of belonging really comes up strongly, and it's a theme that aroused frequently around my work with asylum seekers, for example, not only, but this subject, to be a foreign or this sense of belonging, it's something that very interesting to me. And since we moved here, it comes up, as I said, very strongly. And I want to take this subject and to ask about it, a lot of questions. What does it mean to be a foreign? How can we, in what ways we can bridge a cultural and linguistics gap to create a sense of belonging? And I want to ask it in this fellowship work. I want to ask myself, of course. I want to look and to search in Jewish literature, and also the people in the community that I will meet. Yeah.
So I also love that this sense of belonging is such a strong connection between the two of you as well, because Paloma, I know you've spent the last 10 years or so understanding your Dominican roots and learning Spanish so that you feel like you were really immersed in your Dominican community. And I know that the Jewish piece is a newer exploration for you. So tell us a little bit about what being Jewish means to you and what you hope to discover during this fellowship.
Yeah, I think that it starts from like just from like a young age and growing up, even through high school. I feel like as a as a biracial person, I feel like even saying that, like it's such a big part of my identity and who I am. But growing up, it felt like it was like kind of like I had no identity. Like I had no permission to be anything because I was only half of each of anything, and half isn't like enough. These are the thoughts that I had growing up. I don't even know what people think I look like. I don't know how people see me. I don't know if I have the grasp enough to defend who I am. It was like all of that combined and just feeling like kind of like a nobody, like I'm not enough of anything to be anybody. And I think that was a lot of how I felt growing up and in high school, and especially in high school, being in a school that's predominantly, students of color. That's where I even recognized I was a person of color, like in a way that made me realize. I was put in like native Spanish classes because my Spanish was familiar, but it wasn't good. It wasn't like correct, but so I wasn't like, but I couldn't be in like an intermediate or like an early level Spanish because it was like going to be too easy for me. And so even that was like, there was like, no, I feel like I didn't belong anywhere. I didn't even belong in the right Spanish class. Like there was no right Spanish class for me. Anyways, but I think that's where it started from, like realizing, I am something, there's something about me. There's a history. I come from two human beings that have a whole story and history and identity. My father as, an Afro-Caribeño, Dominican, born and raised. He came here when he was 27 years old, My mom as a Jewish American who grew up who had spent 10 years of her young life in Malaysia, then moved to Wisconsin. And, I have a big family. We have roots in Hungary. We have a whole story and on both sides. And I feel like when I got older, I said, I just felt like there's so much that I want to discover about myself. Like I'm not a nobody, like there's a lot to know. And so, I think it started with trying to teach myself Spanish. I did not grow up speaking Spanish. My parents speak fluent Spanish. My mom speaks fluent Spanish. My dad speaks fluent English. They just speak Spanish in the house. So I heard it, but I didn't really speak it. I think it's the same for my brother, but he probably has a different story. But I think both of us took it upon ourselves to learn Spanish ourselves. And I started, around maybe 18, 19, I was in DR for like a month learning Spanish. And then I graduated from college and moved to DR for 5 years. And that's where my Spanish was fluent, but also like, I feel like being in DR, you start to see like, there's similarities to my spirit that's here, like on this island. Like I'm getting to know my cousins. I'm getting to know my uncles and my aunts. They know me, I know them. And there's some, you start to feel like you belong somewhere. And you also start to like really feel settled in a good way. Like you feel eased in your being different. Like I think that living in DR made me feel like I don't need to try to be Dominican. Like I don't need to try to be anything. I'm a Dominican-American. This is what I look like. This is what I sound like when I speak Spanish. This is who I am. I am like just a bundle of everything that I am and everything that I grew up with. And this is like who I am, and I feel like going to DR made me even more so feel like I don't need to make excuses for myself. Or excuses for my being biracial or different, or you can't figure me out. It's okay. No one needs to figure me out. And the same goes with my Jewish identity. I feel like there's this, probably this, like, I'm not Jewish enough. I'm not good enough at being Jewish. I don't know all the songs. you know, and I don't know all the prayers, and I've never had, you know, a bat mitzvah, those kinds of things. It's like, well, then I guess maybe I don't belong here. But then again, you grow up and you're surrounded with family, Passover, Rosh Hashanah, gatherings for Hanukkah. You know, my nephew goes to Hebrew school, and as you get older, you start to see like, no, this belongs to me too. My Jewish, and so I feel like, again, whereas I might have felt like I had no place to claim it, as I got older, I realized how much I am Jewish in every way, and that I want to explore so much more about it and ask all the questions and learn about my family's history and all of that stuff. Sorry, I really rambled on that one.
No, thank you. I think we all appreciate the honesty. I think we got a beautiful snapshot of who you each are in a very short period of time. So what I was going to say is simply that because both of your work speaks so strongly for itself, before I ask you any more questions, I would like us to look at another round of work. So Paloma, first, we are going to look at a piece that you actually created with the Gardner Museum. If we can pull that up.
It began the day the first white person went to Africa and began to kidnap people in Africa. They did not just sit down and let themselves be taken away. They fought. They fought all the way to the boat. They fought on the boat. They killed themselves throughout the trip. They killed themselves as they get off the boat or killed whoever was tying them up. So the fight began the day the aggression, the kidnapping, the slave mentality began to capture people. Now, and the fight went throughout, everywhere. It's not just Haiti. That's another false idea that Haiti did a revolution. But Jamaica a lot more than we did. Cuba has much more revolt than we did. With the help of France and British Army, the Dutch put the island back into slavery and arrested the 3 women. Is just one tip of the revolution in slavery that's going throughout the world and received its first major success in Haiti. So the revolution is all over. It's not the Haitian revolution. The Haitian revolution is was just one tip of the revolution against slavery that went throughout the world and received its first major success in Haiti.
So, Paloma, hold on, we'll have this topic there again. It's the same. I want to continue, and it's so beautiful, but we're going to send this out after so everybody can watch the full video. I personally am just taken by the filming of dance because that's such a hard thing to film, and you did an absolutely beautiful job. But the complexity of this piece, the depth in the storytelling in this is really impressive with the camera angles and the whole story you're telling. So tell us a little bit about what this project is and where it came from.
So this is, well, actually this one piece wasn't a part of the series I was doing with the Gardner Museum called called the Luminary Lens series, where it was sort of like it was a documentary series that I directed and filmed that would highlight artists that were creating work for the museum, especially during these pandemic times, you know, sort of a way to virtually share art, you know, while we had to be socially distanced. This particular piece is choreographed, and the story and everything is from Jean Apollon, who is a Haitian choreographer here in Boston. He has a whole, he does a lot of dance programs, and he's just incredibly talented, visionary. And this was his piece called Traca. And this was one of the first dance pieces. There's another one after this. And these two dance pieces we filmed and I edited, and the documentary was also another component of the contract. And I had never filmed dance like this, and I had my good friend Steve Osemwenka with me, and he was the second camera DP on that, and editing that was the biggest challenge. I have never, and it just was so gratifying in the end, because it's obviously the work is gorgeous and it's meant to be seen live, and I didn't want to mess this up. So yeah, but it was a challenge, obviously moving all of the different camera angles and wanting to also include the slow motion without getting off beat and sticking with the movement so that everything was still marked properly with the music. Woof, that was a challenge, but I learned from it. So I feel like I'm maybe a little bit better of an editor since then. And yeah, that's what that is.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Rotem, another piece of yours that I just love is called Toto and Friends. So let's watch that. I think it's totally different than the other piece we saw.
מה אתם משחקים? היי, ללה, שלום לך. אנחנו משחקים בכאילו. אני המלכה הגדולה של הכל. אוף. טוק טוק טוק. מיכל, אתה בבית?
אבל, וואו, קיו, איך גיליתי אותי? אתה ממש טוב במחבואים.
אני אתפס אותך! לא! את לא תתפסי אותי! וואו! טוטו! אתה אנקיסטי! פוס משחק, טוטו! מיכאל, למה אתה בוכה ביום ההולדת שלך?
אתה זחלת?
בטח שזחלתי את יום ההולדת שלך. אתה החבר הכי טוב שלי. יום הולדת שמח, מיכאל!
וואו, אני בשוק!
Rotem, thank you. I just want to say I love that how much we can appreciate that, even if we don't understand any of the Hebrew. Just so clever, so clever.
Wow.
Tell us a little bit about how you created this.
First of all, we really wanna. Yeah, I'm on. Yeah,
Yeah.
we really wanna bring. Paloma, I feel you're like my sister. We want to bring this show to the US. We really want to do that. I feel that it's very unique puppet show, and I really hope that it will happen. So Toto and Friends is a show based on books for toddlers, written by Orit Bergman. She's the main creator of the show, and she designed all the puppets. She's a painterist for children, and that's why we designed it. She designed it like that. It's like kind of a comics book. We wanted it to be kind of a comic book. That's why the colors are only black, white, and red, and I'm the yellow one. There are so many puppets in this show, and the thing that I love most in this show is that I don't have a minute to breathe. I'm like bringing that. We always said that a puppeteer is supposed to have 3 hands or 4 hands. But we have only 2. So I do that, and I love it. I love that I can manipulate many things at the same time. Yeah, we made this show when I was pregnant, and the premiere, yeah, you said premiere, right? The one first, it was when Imri, my daughter, was 2.5 months or 3 months, and it was something that I feel that Toto and Friends is my second son. I feel that they born together, and Imri, when she was so small, we did rehearsals together, and Orit hold her, and I was manipulating, and then I hold her, and she was trying to do some stuff. So this show is it's in my heart. Yeah.
You're amazing, and I can totally relate to that feeling of holding a 3-month-old and doing things, and you're even more amazing for that. The energy between the two of you is just unbelievable, and I'm going to go ahead and guess that everyone out there is as excited and inspired to get to know you as I am. And so I want to get practical just for our last few minutes, which is a piece of this fellowship, a critical piece of this, is that you are spending your time over the course of these 8 months to develop your own craft in collaboration with the community. And the community engagement piece is, of course, a really big piece of this, as we've discussed. And so for everyone out there, I kind of want to be able to give them a sense of, without knowing exactly what your capstone projects are going to look like, what might an engagement with you look like? You know, very practically, what kinds of workshops might we do? What kinds of age groups might be working with, etc. So Paloma, kick us off. What might it look like to work with you?
Well, I really want to engage with different age groups and different communities. I think that I really want to center my workshops around writing and storytelling. I know it sounds like so basic, but in a way that's meant to be performed. And so I'm, would love to do monologue writing workshops with communities, and I would love people to share in a way through character, through fiction, stories of their own sort of like identity and like self-celebration. And I think that I also would love to connect with, communities and organizations advocating for Jewish people of color. And I really want to sort of highlight that, you know, that we're here and that, you know, there's not that much representation that you see of Jewish people of color or biracial Jewish people. And I really want to celebrate that and highlight that as well when I reach out to the communities.
Awesome. Thank you, Paloma. And Rotem, what about you? What might it look like to engage with you during this fellowship?
Now I'm thinking to myself that, Paloma, we must do something together. That's something new that I so let's do that. Let's speak up. Well, I'm very excited to meet many people, and I want to give many kinds of workshops. So I want to take the theme of belonging as an anchor, and to create workshops, different workshops for different communities and ages and population. So probably a workshop for therapists, educational staff, I don't know, the medical clowns in Boston will be totally different than a workshop for the Jewish communities. Or it can be a hands-on workshop around activism, theater practice, but also a lecture about medical clowning or medical clowning in Israel, which is totally a kibbutz galuyot, crazy kibbutz galuyot. And also, I don't know, I was thinking about creative limud that we can do, and also with writing monologues or with how to tell a story of characters, and to talk about, to make a chavruta, but in a creative way. Or a workshop for parents of how to use puppets with your children. If you want to tell a story with your children, if you want to reflect your child feelings. So yeah, I have many ideas, and I'm pretty open to hear from the communities, and for me it's a dialogue, and I will create it, but we can create it together.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, I have promised that we will wrap up in just a few minutes, but I want to throw one wild card question at each of you just because I'm really curious. So tell me, well, who is either one artist or one piece of art that you've seen anytime that inspires you or that you think has made an impact on your work? Rotem, you're nodding your head. I'm letting you go first. Okay.
There's a clown, a Spanish one. His name is Leandro Ribera. And he performed not only in the street, but a lot of his shows on the street. And I watch. He has one YouTube that I watch all the time because it reminds me something very, very important during my work with people. He's first of all, he doesn't do anything. He just watch and observe, and like just standing like that. And it's totally opposite for me because I like and he's like very quiet person, and then he observed the atmosphere, and then he acts, and you can see miracles that happens on the street. I mean, I don't know, he takes an ice cream from a woman, and then a balloon, and things happened. So this is an artist that I admire. Yeah, I have
love that.
Yeah,
I promise everyone out there we will find links and send them along as well. All right, Paloma, what about you?
Oh gosh, this is a hard one just because I feel like really inspired by so many, but I feel like I should, who has been consistently inspiring, and I think I just really, there are a few like filmmakers, like auteurs that really have a specific style And I find that, amazing, like when you can go back and say, oh, like this is the Spike Lee Dolly, like no one does it. I mean, Spike Lee like does it his way. And so Spike Lee is a filmmaker that has been inspiring me ever since I was younger. Pedro Almodovar, who has such a theatrical, beautiful art direction to his work. Wes Anderson in his writing is so unique, and I just love it. So I feel like maybe all of them and a few others like inspire me to want to put my print in my work and have it be sort of work that people say, oh yeah, that's Paloma's work. So that's always been a goal of mine, and I think that they've inspired that for sure.
Awesome. Well, I can say that you have only inspired me more in this conversation, and I hope that everyone out there is left with as many questions as I am and will want to meet with you both. So I am going to let us go on a high and turn it over to Liana Krupp, who is one of our jury members for the Community Creative Fellowship for both years now, and let her close us out.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. And Paloma, Rotem, so excited to have you in the mix and get to learn with you and learn from you and see what comes of it. I just have to say that there's such a beautiful spirit of collaboration that I'm seeing develop here between the similarities and differences coming together, and really thinking about the fact that the Creative Community Fellowship actually came out of the spirit of collaboration between CJP and JArts. And it's just so amazing to really look at the Jewish world through the lens of art, and from both a global and a hyper-local perspective that both of you bring, and really sitting with this idea of belonging. As someone who converted to Judaism, I often struggled with some of those questions of, am I in the right space? I don't know the prayers. I always feel like I'm never enough. And I really look forward to seeing how this comes together and what's built and created. And I'm really excited for the Boston Jewish community to have two rock stars really leading the way in it. Literally sitting over here fangirling with friends on texts who are on here, and doing my best not to text Laura directly about how excited I am to see this work, because I don't want to distract her. But thank you everyone who came today. Thank you, Paloma and Rotem, and thank you to CJP and JArts for bringing this together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Liana. Paloma and Rotem, I am so excited for what you're going to bring to the community. I just want to remind everyone, as Kimberly said up at the top, if you would like your communities to engage with this fellowship at any point over the course of the next 6 or 8 months, you can email Jamie Brody, the JArts Collaborations Director. I will make sure that her email goes out afterwards, along with some other links, so that you can go down the rabbit hole of Paloma and Rotem's work like the rest of us have so far. So thank you all so much. We're so excited to kick things off in this way. You have so much energy, and I can't wait to see what you bring to our community. So thank you, and we'll see you all very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.